I think what's incredibly transformative about this era in technology and the AI connector and all the things that Chris is doing is you can build whatever you want. No longer tells you how to use the product precisely. Right? Then we're empowering you with all that data to build whatever you think is interesting. And I think that's the new differentiator.
Today, we are talking about how technology at TractIQ is transforming. How's that for an alliteration? Transforming the way you underwrite deals to save you time. Welcome to the Self Storage Report. I'm Chris Berg with Abernathy Development. If you've got some land in California, Arizona, you think might work for storage, definitely hit me up. And of course, subscribe here to the YouTube channel so you can be the first to know when we put out these outstanding pods. Join us today, CEO of TractIQ, Mr. Noah Starr, doing just some incredible things with tech. If you're not familiar with MCPs, we're going to dive into that, maybe show you some things that I'm building as well. Noah, happy Thursday. Great to see you, my friend.
Likewise, you're not sick of me already?
We love having you on the show, especially where you're going. We are going to get into tech. I do want to share some things that I'm building because of what Noah's put out. But before we do that, let's talk about things that actually really matter. And I say that because I want to just give you a chance to touch on this great post you put out about your daughter and how it sort of changed your perspective on what you're up to in life. And obviously, I understand the inspiration behind it. It's your daughter, but I would just love to hear some more color and context on where you're sitting there going, I want to put this post out on LinkedIn.
Well, I appreciate you bringing this up. And I would say it's never been easier to put out content. It's never been easier to put out AI generated content. And I think what I've found is when I overthink things to post, it tends to be over analyzed and over AI. And in that moment when she was kind of just sleeping on me and, being so cute and adorable, I kind of put her to bed and wrote this personally, and then figured, I think this message resonates with people, especially on the weekends. And, the whole reason we're doing all of this in storage is, to provide for our families and make sure that they're okay and all of it. So I think being a parent has changed me a lot in the last 13 weeks. And I think this is just one tiny post about it.
Well, that's kind of what I want to get the heart at. So how has being a new papa, which by the way, congratulations, impacted you and your perspective on things?
Hmm. I think everything's fundamentally changed for me personally. And I used to think about my life in terms of my career and wife. And everything was built around TractIQ and the company and the employees and the mission and all of it. And it's fundamentally reset where now everything's built around Charlotte. And I was saying this to my co-founders and some friends. I could not start a company today. Could not do it. Like, I would not want to do it because I just want her to be okay. And starting a company and being an entrepreneur, as you know, is really challenging mentally and physically and spiritually. And so I'm so glad that I did that before becoming a parent, especially with a newborn. But yeah, lots has changed in the last 13 weeks.
Well, I just want to say congratulations. Loved your post and just want to give you a chance to comment because being a new dad, it's hopefully you're sleeping, but I remember those days. You're like a zombie walking around going, okay, where am I? Who am I? What's going on right now? So super, super happy for you. Before we get into the tech piece, I do want to just touch on your take. You come from an institutional background, your take on the industry as a whole. And the reason I bring this up is had a great conversation earlier this week. I don't know if you've been watching the 10-year. I'm presuming that you have at least some level, but this is an interesting graphic I put together to overlay kind of 1967 to 1983. So that's the top line here, this top blue line. And then the one now is from 2015 to April 2026. And you can sort of see it's, roughly a 2% spread, but it's following along here. And so if this were to bear out to follow along to the, we'll say, worst possible scenario, I don't think there's any doubt. You can see inflation is tracking the same way right now. You're looking at 13% 10-year. Again, we don't know where this is going to go. I'm not suggesting that we do, but just as an institutional investor with that kind of mindset, and I talked to a lot of brokers lately, and they're like, man, activity's picking up a bunch. I wonder if some of that is because people are looking at this going, hey, my cap rates might start to raise, diminishing the value of my asset. I might just get rid of this thing now. What say you, my friend? What's your analysis?
Yeah, I think that I haven't looked at this specific relationship between 1967 and 2015 and present. I would say there are lots of things you can compare that might look similar, but have no correlation to each other, right? So I haven't thought enough about this relationship in particular. I think if you do look at from 2023 until present, rates have been really steady and have been pretty consistent in the, what are you looking at here? The 10-year is the 10-year.
Mhm.
Yeah, pretty consistent in the low fours. And, there's lots of geopolitical events. There's lots of economic factors at play, but rates have been pretty consistent for 3 years. It looks to be the case that happened in 67 or whatever year period that is too. Obviously, if inflation and rates continue to increase, that will put lots of pressure on the ability to buy properties at cap rates of today, right? I mean, buying at negative leverage, I think we all saw the pains of doing that over the last 5 years. And I think if, I remember back in 2022, 2023, even the notion of rates are going to increase, you know, put a lot of challenges on investment companies raising capital. So, if I'm hopeful that that is not the case, we don't want anywhere close to 15% interest rates. America, I think Warren Buffett always says that the best investment is in America. And I think that's been true for the last 100+ years. So hopefully we don't see the same trends that we did with that inflationary period.
No doubt about it. It's just interesting to watch. You know, it has sort of this 40-year economy, if you will, of rates going downward. And a lot of real estate investors might think, man, look, I'm a genius. And part of it might just be, hey, you bought it at a good time and rates are going down and it made it a little bit easier for you to make money. And everyone I talked to as of late has said those days are probably over. If you're going to win now, you have to be a really, really good operator. Do you concur with that?
It definitely helps to
Yeah.
be a good operator. I would say maybe a contrarian take is the quality of operators today versus 5 years ago or 10 years ago is night and day. I mean, you take the average to good operator versus the average to good operator 5 to 10 years ago. I think it's materially better. And I think technology is continuing to pave the way. So agreed, the really good operators will still have an edge, but I think that gap is narrowing as the whole industry has become more institutionalized.
Let's jump into tech because obviously I'm assuming you're going to say, hey, maybe this tech can help you. Maybe not the MCP in of itself, but you look at what Public's doing. We talked about this last time with Welltower, hopefully help to increase their NOI and do some different things from that standpoint. I don't know this yet, but I'm presuming you've got some sort of presentation that you're going to share with us today in regards to some of the tech that you released. And I just want to say thank you and acknowledge you for what you're doing at TractIQ because what you gave me kind of an early version to play around with and look at. What I've been able to build is even blown my mind. I had no idea that this was even possible, and I'll jump into some of those things in a moment. But really want to give you the floor first to show off what you've been up to and what you recently released.
Yeah, I would say so. We just released an AI connector last week, which connects all of TractIQ's data into any AI workflow of your choosing. So if you use Claude, if you use ChatGPT in Excel and PowerPoint, or on your phone, you can now talk to TractIQ's data. So I think we can go through a couple of things here and maybe kind of start some workflows. And I'll even start, let me share my screen. And then I would love maybe a tease of what you built, even though we might want to show that on the webinar in a couple of weeks. But I think historically, I'm currently in Los Angeles right now. And historically and today in TractIQ, you can export all of the data and you would export it to Excel, analyze it in Excel, all of these kinds of things. I think now what you can do is actually bring all of this data into this workflow. So, for example, let's actually anchor around, why don't we anchor around this extra space here? So let's say that we want to look at this 1,000 Main Street deal. I'm going to say we run a market analysis around. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm actually going to open Claude, which I do not work for Anthropic, but I guess effectively now do because they're amazing. So what I did is I just typed in, can we run a market analysis around this address that we just pulled up? And you can see that Claude is calling our market summary tool. It's calling our pricing tool. It's actually geocoding the address within Claude, and we'll actually now build some analysis for me. While that's going, okay, I also have my Excel model that I have here. And I also, in my Excel model, this is a fully dynamic institutional grade model that I built. I also asked it to pull the rates for this same address that we were just looking at into TractIQ. So while that's going, okay, let's go back to
Another site.
Claude. Okay. And you can see that we now have a market summary for this facility in TractIQ or within Claude. So
Now, can I ask you some questions while you're doing this? In
go for
Claude,
it.
is this an agent? Is that why it's spitting out this sort of dynamic graphic, if you will, or is this just a simple chat and you did it, or do you have specific instructions for this? Or
So at over time, Claude kind of knows the way that I want it, but I literally just asked it to run a market analysis around using the AI connector, and it'll pull certain tools that provide structured data that, we have done deliberately for Claude. And you can see that it's pulling the downtown number of operating facilities, rentable square feet, supply per capita, number of climate control, some demographic factors, percent of the market that's REIT versus non-REIT, some stuff under development. And then here you go. Look at all the rate trends within 3-mile radius of this address. Again, all that I've pulled while we've been on this call. And now it's also still doing demographics um, of this facility. So in 60 seconds in Claude, I now have had Claude basically analyze or pull all the data to analyze this market, and think about how much faster I can move. All while I also, as we talked about 60 seconds ago, just had this populate all of the rates for North Main Street in LA, and my now Excel model for this address that I just put in together literally has now populated my entire rate analysis tab all within the last 3 minutes.
I mean, it's truly stunning. And so, what are you solving for in your underwriting? And then, can you show what that came up with?
So in this case, I was just trying to look at, for at least this tab in my model, I was trying to understand the 10 by 10 climate, non-climate rates in this area, and then looking at the discount percent between them, so that if I'm working on my institutional memo, I kind of have a rate analysis. So you can see that our AI connector actually in Claude pulled all of the data from this address after geocoding it and populated my model just like that. So maybe 3 months ago, 6 months ago, I would have had to export the data to Excel, manually paste it into the thing, right? And like you think of all the time savings and the speed to get to quality insights, it's genuinely unmatched.
And now, I know you're doing a lot of great things with the MCP and Claude and Excel. Can you basically just talk to it and say, hey, now give me a stress test if rates go to X or if cap rates go to Y, and it'll do all that pretty much automatically, yes?
Yeah, so why don't we do this? I'm gonna start an analysis. I'm gonna say, can you help me understand how interest rates over the last 5 years compare to the 1960 to 1975 period, um, using the TractIQ AI connector and estimating what rental rates could look like in the next 5 years.
And
Please
cap rates. See if you can
back
add
test
cap rates in
this and look at cap rates. Okay. So while that's going, I'm going to show you a couple of things. So I just want to show you guys,
it.
um, Chris kind of hit me with that chart on the fly. I have no idea, what we're going to see. But, in this case, I'm just asking Claude to kind of understand this question and see, see something like this. And you can see like it's already going to start telling me it needs to pull in Fed funds rate. It needs to pull in, some surveys. It's going to clarify some stuff. So while it's doing that, I want to go back to
So while
this.
you're doing that, just so people to know, the chart that I showed you was built by Claude. Like I just said, hey
Okay.
Claude, give me this comparison, blah, blah, just to share with you, like it's so incredible what it's doing.
Yep. So what I also want to demonstrate while it's working on that. So you can see that again, in Claude, we've got now a demographic analysis of this entire market, all within Claude. While I was also in the background, I also, again, we're in LA. I also was like, I'm curious. Could we build a predictive achieve rent model for this market based on all of our CMBS occupancy data, our CMBS achieve rate data, and like simulate some scenarios? Okay. So again, we had that initial Claude chat, we had my Excel model, and now we have this achieve rent model, all while, I've got this, analysis about the 1970s stagflation. So we'll see how that's going. You can see here, Claude and I built a model to predict achieve rates, actually pulling in the data from a U-Haul, a StoreQuest, a US storage facility in this market. And you can kind of see, depending on what 10 by 10 standard rate I have, it's predicting what some of these stores would be based on our data. And, you can do this and back test it and build all sorts of things to like really try to understand what the, what relationships could exist. I'm going to pause there because I'm seeing some really interesting stuff. You know what? Why don't we watch it build with this
Yeah.
stagflation thing? Because I again have no idea what it's going to come up with. But you can see I picked LA. Okay. We've got a 25-mile radius around downtown LA looking at our pricing data with a macro overlay. And it's currently building the last 36 months and then a projected 60-month period. And it's going to pull in all sorts of things. And I gave it very minimal direction. So I'm curious. But what would before it shows the answer, what do you think it's going to come up with, Chris?
In regards to what the rates and or what the utilizing the Fed fund rate.
I think so. If we go back to the prompt, if like try to understand how interest rates compare to that period you showed me earlier,
Mhm.
and then what rental rates could look like for the next 5 years. So it's going to do like a rental rate estimate for the next 60 months.
So my guess, if it's pulling in accurate data, because I believe inflation is going up, is it's going to show rental rates probably more than a 3% upward trend, assuming that it doesn't include, LA, we had to watch, it's saying stagflation of the 70s. So maybe it's actually going to lower rates. No, they're projected up. So that's what I anticipated.
So why don't we see what is going on here? So you can see we've got the 10 by 10 street rates for climate, non-climate, and then the 5 by 5. Oh, it's forecasting it's going up to the right. So I'd
Yeah,
have lots
but
of
I think
lots
that's
of
a pretty
questions.
healthy upward trend, don't you think?
Yeah, but you can see here it's showing what the Fed funds rate was back, from the cycle start, how cap rates have moved over the last number of years. And, here's the initial conclusion from Claude, how it's a milder version of the 70s. Street rates are tracking the textbook stagflation pattern, all this kind of stuff. So we can ask it 1,000 more questions and get really deep into the analysis. which is the point. The point
Exactly.
is we're empowering everyone with this data to derive insights that have never before been possible. So it's been kind of amazing.
It's been unbelievable. So, if you don't mind, I want to take a few moments and just share with people what I've been building and then give you a chance to essentially poke holes in what I'm sharing because this is the first time I've ever done this. And so, if you've got questions along the way, then please interrupt me, Leah.
Yep.
So, I am right now currently building out 4 agents. So, one for an initial analysis, one for zoning, one for scoring, which I'll share, and then one for underwriting. But I want to think, and I'm going to steal your word from a couple weeks ago, Noah. One of the things that's been really, really powerful for us, I essentially built my own CRM. And what I want people to realize is I know nothing about tech. Okay. So I'm utilizing a thing called Replit and I'm utilizing Claude. So I built our CRM, which this is the dashboard, and then I built an MCP for our CRM. Now, why does that matter? Because basically now my MCP, excuse me, my CRM can talk to Claude and communicate back and forth with other tools that I'm using. So this is our dashboard. I'm going to walk through just a quick example here to share. What I get really excited about with this dashboard, Noah, is the fact that this is how we are basically tracking and monitoring potential deals, right? So I've also got a dead column way over here to the far right. Now, the reason this is important is because this allows me to compound. I mean, imagine now, right now, I've got roughly, 1,000 deals. If you look at, I've got 450 dead, 284 in my source, some other screening, close, whatnot. But once this thing's at 10,000 deals, the beautiful thing about this is because of the MCP, I can literally, which you'll see in a moment, talk to my computer and re-underwrite deals every 6 months, 3 months, every 12 months, whatever, and see if, hey, maybe that thing didn't work 12 months ago. Maybe it works today. So there's this compounding effect where also what I'm doing with this is being able to help Claude get better every time we do this so it can get more refined and better at helping me underwrite the best deals really in the country, even though we're focused right now on California. So that's the CRM. That's the compounding piece. We're scoring things. I've got different agents. And I want to share with you how I'm utilizing what Noah's put together and the impact that that's having on our business. I mean, really immediately, because again, I can keep all these potential sites in the CRM and then let things compound. So have you ever used Whisper, Noah?
The voice app.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've used
Okay,
that.
good. So that's what I use just to give people an idea. So you can see here, I'll say, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to keep this super simple today, but go to the AHCRM. I want you to grab 2 sites from the source column that you've not previously run through Agent 1 and run them through Agent 1. And then I want you to set it up so I can just simply copy and paste your instructions into Agent 2. Can you do that? So I've got instructions in Agent 1. And so it's going to go now, as you can see, it goes to the CRM with the MCP. It's going to grab 2 of those. I just showed, I think there was like 250, 300 sites in the unsourced, or excuse me, in the source column. So he's going to now search for 2 sites that they haven't previously looked at, finds 2 of them. And now it's going to run, because of the instructions I've given it, to go and search TractIQ and utilize TractIQ information. You'll see here it's going to kind of run through because it's already in that source column. What's powerful about this, and again, Noah, ask questions or poke holes in this, but I essentially can go and I can run, I can get a list of 10 sites, 25 sites. As this gets better, I'll be able to grab a list of 200 sites, throw it into Agent 1. It'll do its initial run through.
It is really cool. Wait, scroll down. So now it automatically knows to geocode it using the TractIQ. It's now pulling the demographics from TractIQ. It's now pulling pricing, and you built your own deal engine on top of our data so that you can have your own agents underwriting sites.
Exactly. So this will take me through Agent 1, which will give me kind of a brief demographic analysis. Then what it's going to do is it's going to give me a copy and paste that I'll put into Agent 2. And the beautiful thing is I refine these agents. Eventually, this is all going to just be one simple hit a button and it'll go do it for me. But then I put in my agent 2 as my zoning agent. So it does a very thorough job on going through city documents and looking at zoning aspects. And then once this is done, just to give people an idea of how it works, Noah, then I'll share with them what I'm up to with agent 3. Um, so here's the site one. It gives me a 24-month, CC blended rate of $219 per TractIQ. Now it's going through site 2. Now, a couple things to note. I don't know off the top of my head here how big these sites are. I don't know what the pricing is. So again, this is all first iterations. Even what you saw in the CRM is sort of a first iteration. There's definitely work to be done there, but this is just to give people an idea of how powerful it is what Noah's put out here at TractIQ with the MCP. Because what's beautiful about this right now, whether I've got 2 in here, 10 in here, 200, well, it's doing this. I'm now talking to brokers, sending emails, doing the things that I should be doing, right? Shaking hands and kissing babies kind of thing, while my tech is doing all this work.
And Chris, I like to drive the point home. You also can do this from your phone, right? This is the analysis that we did together on Claude of the demographics of LA. Here's all the pricing trends. So you can leave your computer right now, go to a lunch meeting, and have it continue to run on your phone. And like, what's the point? Like, why is this so important, right? I think in this case, it's you can 1000x, not just the deals you look at, but also the quality information brought initially, right? Like you think about initially screening a deal 5 years ago, you might look at like 4 or 5 things. Now you can genuinely bring all of that deep underwriting data and immediately, so that potentially maybe if you were going to miss a site 5 years ago because you didn't have time to go really understand the dynamics, now you can understand the dynamics much faster and also focus on what your superpower is, right? Like Chris, your superpower might not be building memos and models. It could be developing relationships. It could be meeting with owners. It could be meeting with brokers. It could be the human aspect that like requires your presence and your brain and your integrity, not how great can you move with Excel keyboard shortcuts.
Dude, thank you, Noah, for pointing that out, because Excel is it's not my jam, right? I mean, now with Claude, it makes it much easier, but I'm not going to sit there and do a bunch of formulas. That's just not my jam. But talking to you, talking to people, I love doing that. I got to say,
Yep.
I'm kind of embarrassed I didn't know this about myself, but I have loved building stuff, which I'm going to share with you guys in a minute, something else that Noah has helped me build with the MCP. But here's what's awesome. Again, I take this, I can basically copy this. I'll throw this into agent 2. It's going to run the zoning aspect of it. And then it's going to give me, and now keep in mind what's beautiful about this, Noah, every time I do this, because watch this, I can just to see, so people can see, can you make sure you put these notes inside the CRM with each one of these site cards? Can you confirm that that's been done?
Hmm.
So now all these notes are in the CRM and it's there forever, right? So that's the beauty where, again, if I go back 6 months from now or 12 months from now and this site didn't work today, but let's say it's still being listed or it's off market and I, haven't had a chance to connect with the owner or whatnot, boom, it's all right there. And I can go, hey, and simply just talk to my computer, go, hey, can you go and re-underwrite 2325 Statham Boulevard in Oxnard? Boom. And it'll re-underwrite it, redo the zoning, whatever it is that I want it to do, right? So that's really powerful. Now, when I run it through agent 2, then I'm going to take it through agent 3. Here's where it gets to be really fun, and I'll share this real quick. Agent 3, I'm going to show you in a minute, is a scoring rubric that we built, again, thanks to Noah's tech. But I've also got it automatically set up that if I get a score of, I think I lowered it to like 50, but if it's 50 or more, it'll automatically move that site from source to screening so that I can now take a deeper dive in it and then obviously move it to underwriting and then whatever the next steps are. So just to have some fun with this, here's something that I built, again, thanks to what Noah was able to put together, but this is a site scoring rubric. Noah, you and I think looked at this recently, but if there's anybody out there watching that's got some feedback, would love it. What you can do, and I may make this public, but you can essentially put an address in here. Again, thanks to TractIQ, hit lookup. I did this one yesterday, so I don't know how this is going to work today, but it should fill in all these fields and then it should score it, which I think it was an 80 yesterday. So I'm assuming it'll be 80 tomorrow or today, excuse me. Yeah, there you go. So you can see it give you the 24-month blended rate, projects in the pipeline. Um, the zoning stuff isn't accurate, so that's not really fair. But the point is what we're doing is building out scores again to help us sort through sites more efficiently, like you said, to 10, 100,000x what we're up to. And this is the rubric we've created so far. We're given rental rate 40% of the score, supply scarcity, the demand score is in here 30%, market demand 10, entitlement risk 15, and then just some context bonus around is that a high traffic corridor or whatnot's 5 points. And then this is really built for California, as you'll see, because the rates are so high. But this is just to give people an idea of how we're scoring things from a rubric perspective, where if the rate's 260 or more for a 10 by 10 CC, 24-month blended, that gets 21 points. If it's down here at 185, kind of our floor, it gets 9 points. Um, so what's great is that I will then put from agent 2 into agent 3 a list of, again, 2, 10, 100. It'll score those, give me its analysis, and I can decide, hey, do I want to continue to focus on these? What's really nice is this rubric's also got our demand score in here, um, and some other aspects. So any feedback, thoughts on this, Noah?
Yeah, I would say it's amazing. And if you're watching this, you might be saying, wow, this is a little overwhelming. I think simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. That's what Chris is trying to do. He's trying to simplify his own process for underwriting and screening deals so that he's spending time on the right opportunities. I think what's incredibly transformative about this era in technology and, the AI connector and all the things that Chris is doing is you can build whatever you want. TractIQ no longer tells you how to use the product precisely, right? Our platform is amazing. It's still, I think, the home base for our customers. It's really simple to navigate, really, I think, amazing way to get data on any address in the country. But then we're empowering you with all that data to build whatever you think is interesting. And I think that's the new differentiator, right? You think about what Chris has built versus the legacy tools that people had years ago. I mean, Chris can screen all of the deals in the country significantly faster that historically would have required Chris to invest $1 million a year in personnel or in technology or whatever. And I think that's where the differentiator lies is once Chris underwrites 1,000 deals, right? What about the other company that's underwritten 5,000 or 10,000 deals over the last 3 years, right? So what kind of edge can this new technology give that company over Chris, right? So I think as groups lean into all of that, I think we're going to see some really, really interesting insights and really, really interesting activity across not just self-storage, but the rest of the real estate world.
Yeah. Again, thank you for what you've put out there, Noah. And just let people know, like, I know nothing about tech. I basically just, as you can see, talk to my computer and I say, hey, Claude, if I want to do X, how do I do that? If you're not familiar with Replit, I would encourage you to check out Replit if you want to start building stuff. But literally, again, I use Whisper. I talk to Replit. It builds it. I don't know how. Yesterday, Noah, I'll give you an example. I may have unlocked something that I didn't even think was possible for finding off-market deals yesterday. Claude told me, well, this is foreign to me, said, hey, I'm going to run a Python code on your terminal computer. I don't know what that is. I just did what Claude told me. Next thing I know, I had a full list of off-market deals, like at the snap of a finger. So I just would say, go have fun with it, be creative, see what you want to build. And then what was great now is it gave me out these off-market deals, took your information, geocoded it into clusters, and then started analyzing what could be viable, what's not, and was like, hey, these are the ones I would probably go hunt down. It was, it blew me away. So I don't know how viable that is yet because it was just a first trial, but if it's as viable as I think it is, holy cow. So Thank you again. I want to give you the last word, closing word, anything else you want to chat about, share.
Well, I would say you can, in TractIQ, build your custom prospect list, save it as Chris's off-market deal list, and then in Claude, say, can you analyze Chris's off-market deal list that I just built in TractIQ and score every property in the list of most likely for me to acquire based on my criteria. So I would encourage you to check that out. But I think the point is we want to empower the industry with incredible information wherever they work. And that is now the case. And I think once you use it and once you realize what you can build, I have already seen some unbelievable things that our customers have built. Like kind of like what you just showed me, right? They're building CRMs, they're building deal screening tools, they're building email, automations. They're building all sorts of things to have all of this incredible data everywhere. And I think that'll lead to so much better decisions than, even just the analysis of 1960 versus 75 would have taken me a month to let me try to understand that. And, in 10 minutes, we can put something out that's pretty dangerous.
So
It's unbelievable. And I would encourage folks, we fear what we don't understand. Spend an hour talking with Claude or ChatGPT and try to do something with your job. Ask it to write an investment memo. Ask it to write a model. Ask it to do something legitimate that you do every single day. I think your eyes will open up in a meaningful way.
can you share, and I know you've got a great webinar coming up, but just to tease us a little bit, like what's some of you mentioned an email, but one or two of the coolest things that you've seen other than what you saw today being built?
I think that's what we're going to highlight on our next webinar, which is June 18th at 1 p.m. Central. I think we're going to highlight some incredible things that our customers have built. And in addition to having a deal pitched to us by Austin McLeod, in addition to some other surprises and facts. So that's going to be awesome. And I think we should work together separately on if you want to present some of the things that we just
Yeah.
walked through in this call.
Well, so with that being said, as a reminder, if you or someone out there that's building, they can submit to you, correct?
That's right. They can send us an email, support@tractiq.com, or email me or Hayden or anyone on our team and send a link of what you built or a video, and we'll take a look.
Okay. And then submitted by the 5th, and then the 18th, the webinar, so you can register for that. And with all that being said, I would love for you, because of your tech brain, what would you do to improve my process based on what you saw today?
What I do to improve your process. I think, you have a pretty good process. I would have to spend more time off the cuff, but you're up in the top 10 percentile of customers that I've seen already having built an incredible quasi CRM with agents that I imagine those are Claude skills that you've built that have a specific purpose so that you can have a really effective strategy and process. I think probably that next layer is okay, let's say all of the lights are green. Yes, 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 yes. What happens next, right? Probably want to build a memo. You probably want to build a model and you want to have a full package that you can send to a lender or an investment company of, no, I'm raising capital for this project. Here was the process. I back tested this deal across 500 other deals that I underwrote, and this is the best one for all these reasons. That's probably your next step in that process.
One last thing I just want to put a button on this for people is that, again, the compounding of the CRM is so beautiful. And what you want to start to believe, there's a lot of conversation out there around this, how AI is going to allow you to anticipate what's coming. So again, it's going to get to the point where I'll be able to press a button in Cowork, Noah, and run all 4 agents at once. So essentially, Cowork will go and pull a list itself of 10, 200, however many sites, right? I don't have to even do that. It'll run it through all 4 agents, through the CRM, and it'll be sitting there for me to, like you said, go get lending, whatnot that is. But then the idea is I've got it in Claude right now where it will self-develop to the point where it can get predictive and go, hey, Chris, based on what we've seen in the last 1,000, 10,000 deals, it's kind of what Welltower is doing with public storage, right? Here's where we would think, based on some algorithms, you should be looking over the next 6, 12, 18 months. So it is fascinating to watch. It's phenomenal. And again, thanks to Noah Starr and TractIQ. If you want to sign up for TractIQ, Noah, how do they do that?
Go to tractiq.com. Come chat with us. We'll find a plan that works for you. Every plan that we have now includes the AI connector access. So, looking forward to continuing to see the excitement across the industry and empower everyone with great data. So appreciate you having me on as always.
Yeah, man, it's so great to have you. Thank you for being here. This is a Self-Storage Report. I'm Chris Berg. That's Noah Starr. Please subscribe to the channel here so you can be the first to know about the great content that we're putting out. And we'll see you back here again soon on the Self-Storage Report.
Thanks, Chris.